Is up, everybody, and welcome back to the Life Unlimited Coaching channel. This is Coach Kayla, and I just wanted to jump on here really quick and introduce this video. And this video, we called it Heart Rate Training, and it's with Coach Kira. Now, if you've been following us for a while, then you've probably seen Kira on any client interviews, not any, I'm on some of them, but some client interviews. She has been coaching with me on my team for 2 years now. Actually, 2 years doing Life Unlimited coaching. When I owned my gym, she actually worked for me for a few years there as well. So she has worked on and off with me for the last 5 or 6 years. She is great. She actually handles most of the clients within our coaching program, and she does an amazing job. And so you'll probably see more of her on this channel throughout the next few months, because we do trainings like this all the time. And so if I find it super valuable and relatable to everybody on here, I'm going to share it. Okay. And so this next video is heart rate training. She goes into how to train heart rate zones, why it's important, what happens in those zones, what you're focusing on, all that stuff. And so if you do find it valuable, I'd love for you to like, comment, subscribe. We post new videos on this channel every single week. And so hopefully you enjoy.
Hello. Hello. I hope you're having a great day. I'm stoked to talk to you today about heart rate training, heart rate zones, just a few things you should know about your heart. It is very, very important to understand at least a little bit of what our heart should be doing in different forms of activity. It's good to kind of know where we're at, and most of us have some sort of device that's monitoring our heart rate, whether that's a wrist device or a heart rate strap, whatever that might be. It's good to know what is going on with our heart, and we kind of look at it anyways, but sometimes we don't really know what we're looking at. So I'm going to give a few thoughts about that today and talk a little bit about it. First of all, if you want accurate reading with your heart rate, you do want to get a heart rate or a chest strap. The wrist strap, the watches, they're not very accurate. There's a lot of things that have to be perfect in how they're positioned and how they're tightened and how your skin is underneath in order for it to read it accurately. So it's hard to use only that data. You will get a general idea. So if you're not like super worried about it, it's totally fine. But if you are working towards anything where heart rate training is important, it's very beneficial to have a chest strap. So just keep that in mind. But with heart rate training, so there's a few things about the heart that are important to know. So just like any muscle in the body, our heart, it grows stronger when it's stressed. And so we need to put our heart through a certain amount of stress to be able to make it stronger. An athlete's heart does not have the capacity to beat any faster than a spectator's. Every heart has the exact same capacity for muscular force. It doesn't change. The things that do change with our heart and how we can create a stronger heart have to do with how our heart pumps blood. So our heart essentially is just a pump in our body. And there's two ways that you can increase the output in a pump. One is you keep the chamber, so the chamber of the heart, the same size, but it pumps faster. And then the other way is that you increase the chamber and the stroke rate, it stays the same, but the chamber is larger so that more fluid is pumped per stroke, if that makes sense. So the second way is a lot more efficient because you're pumping the same amount. Your heart rate is the same, but you're pumping more. So your heart rate is lower, but more is being done at that lower heart rate, which is why when we talk about like athletes having obnoxiously low resting heart rates, it's because their heart can do so much more at such a lower rate. The low resting heart rate, it can indicate that you do have a larger stroke volume. The stroke rate is lower because the stroke volume is so large, and it can indicate increasing fitness. So if you started this program and you saw that your resting heart rate was here and you've seen it go down a little bit, that's because you're increasing fitness in your heart. Your heart is able to do more work or to pump more volume with less work. And so that is an awesome, awesome indicator of fitness. And I know a lot of times we get kind of caught up in the what our weight looks like and how our pants fit and how our body looks, and we try and measure our progress with all these things, which they are good measures of progress for sure. But looking at things like our heart rate and what our heart is doing and how our heart's adapting to the training and to the program is a really, really good indicator of where we're at as far as our actual fitness. And so I hope that you guys can take a little bit from this today and you can kind of get an idea of where you're at and maybe some things that you can work on with making your training a little bit more heart rate effective. So when I say that, the reason that we don't specifically prescribe like specific heart rate zones and stuff is because it's really hard to get a super accurate reading on that. And for us to know exactly where you should be. So a lot of what we want you to do is based off of where you perceive your body to be. And naturally we do that anyways when we're working out. When we get to the point where we're like, we kind of slow down a little bit, that's a natural way to respond to increased heart rate or to a really high heart rate. There's a lot of things that can affect our heart rate. So if you do the same workout, because a really great way to measure your heart strength is doing the same workout multiple times and being able to see your heart do less work for the same thing. So it's a lot easier to measure with like endurance activities like HIIT workouts or running or swimming or biking or walking or hill training or any of those kinds of things. It's a lot easier to measure the growth in our heart from exercise session 1 to exercise session 2 if we are recording both of those, but you can see it even with strength training too, which is most of what we're doing, even though all of you have cardio programmed in as well. So you should be able to see some benefits and some changes in both of those types of workouts. But a few things with our heart rate that I want to talk about is that even if we are looking at two different events where we're doing the same workout, there's a lot of factors that can play into how our heart's responding to that effort. So we could do the same exact activity and have a different heart rate, even if our heart has gotten stronger or gotten weaker in that amount of time, whatever it might be, because our bodies are not machines. We don't respond the same to every situation. That's just not how it is. So some things that can influence our heart rate are just normal daily variations. So like changes in stress, changes in recovery. Even when we feel good, sometimes we maybe aren't as recovered as we think we are. That does happen. Our body temperature can affect our heart rate dramatically. I've actually noticed this a lot lately in my training when I run outside versus when I run on a treadmill. My heart rate's so much higher on the treadmill, and it's because there's not as much airflow and there's not as much fresh air. And so the oxygen supply is just different, and I get hotter in there too. And so it definitely makes my heart rate higher. I can't run on a treadmill like I can outside. So, and it's a good thing to know and to see about yourself, those things like that. Gravity makes a huge difference in heart rate. So like swimming doesn't increase your heart rate as much as running does, because running, your whole body is being forced by gravity with every step, while as with swimming, and you're working against gravity too. And swimming, you're working just through the water. So it doesn't do as much to your body. But when we're running, the gravity it pulls the blood to your legs. And so your body has to work a lot harder to move that blood to the rest of your body from your legs. So it's a big process, and your heart rate just goes higher because of that. Position can have a lot to do with your heart rate. In cycling, an example of this is when you're leaned forward. I know, I'm sure that you see this like with professional cyclers. They're always like lean forward on their bike, and those those guys that you see riding down the street, they're just like zooming at the same speed as the cars. They're like lean super far forward in that position. It's more aerodynamic, and it can help keep their heart rate in a lower zone so they can ride faster. It's more efficient. They can ride faster in a shorter amount of time. Equipment can make a big difference. So like lighter, more aerodynamic equipment can lower your heart rate. So like running in good running shoes versus running in big blocky chunky shoes or something. Lightweight running shoes, you wear through them a lot faster, so you have to replace them more, but they are going to help you perform better. So it's kind of a give or take there. Heat, our body tends to rise in extreme temperatures, which I guess I kind of mentioned that with our body heat, but like outdoor heat too, obviously makes our heart rate go up a little bit. We all feel that. Technique, having good technique is very essential to keeping your heart rate in a good spot. You could be doing a run, or you could be doing a HIIT workout, and bad technique and bad form and different movements is going to make your body do a lot more work than it needs to be doing. So that's something that can definitely mess with your heart rate. Caffeine, it definitely has an effect on your heart rate, but caffeine is funny because it has a different effect on different people. Some people it lowers their heart rate, some people it increases. So there's not enough science on that one. There's some science on it, but there's a lot of contradicting science. So I'm not going to give you what my opinion is on that because it is just an opinion. But drugs, like different medications and stuff, can have an effect on our heart rate. It's really good if you do start a new medication to ask your doctor how that medication might affect your heart rate or affect your heart during training sessions. It's just good to know. Altitude, higher altitude, less oxygen. Body has to work harder to distribute the oxygen, and so our heart rate increases with that. Emotions, our hormones can play a huge role in messing with our heart rate. Stress, anxiety, any sort of like adrenaline release will increase our heart rate. For people who do like racing and stuff, like when I race and everything, it's a very important thing for me to be able to make sure I'm calm going into a race. If I'm anxious about a race, I'm not going to do nearly as well if I go into it calm because I'm starting at a better heart rate zone. Age plays into our heart rate. The older we get, the more our heart just naturally drifts into lower zones. Our heart's capacity kind of decreases with age. If you are, however, pushing your heart to its max, and if your heart rate training properly throughout your life, your heart rate capacity actually won't decrease. But naturally, it does if we aren't doing that. So you'll see like athletes that are in their 40s or 50s competing against 20-year-olds and they're crushing it. But then you'll see athletes that are in their 40s or 50s that can't even like imagine keeping up with these young guys. So it just depends on if they've been consistent long enough to be able to hold on to that. Yeah, so there's a ton of things. There's more things too. I'm not going to go into all of the things that can affect our heart rate, but it's important to know when other things might be affecting our heart rate, because then we can know, okay, this may be like I'm stressed today, so maybe today isn't the best time to really look at if my heart rate's improving on this specific endurance event or this specific cardio event or this specific strength session, but heart rate overall can be a good indicator. So it's a good thing to look at. We do have different heart rate zones that we want to be in for different things. And like I said in the beginning, it's important to know which zones are going to be most beneficial for different things. When we are in our like max heart rate zone, like 90 to 100% of our max heart rate, that's going to be like our power speed finding zone. And that zone's not necessary for most people. That's for athletes who are trying to get faster and trying to be the best at what they're doing. So that's not something that we necessarily all need to work towards. If we're at about 80 to 90% of our max heart rate, we're going to be working more on increasing our maximal performance. So we're increasing our capacity for shorter sessions. So like HIIT training and stuff, we're probably going to go into that zone a little bit here and there. We don't want to stay in that zone the whole time, but we're probably going to jump into it from time to time. 70 to 80% of our max heart rate is going to be our zone that improves like our aerobic fitness the most and our cardiovascular fitness. That's a good place to be for cardio training. Our light zone is also a good place to be for cardio training. That's going to be about 60 to 70% of our max heart rate. And that's also going to be our fat burning zone. There's different benefits to the zones 2 and 3, which is going to be our light training and our moderate training. But they both are good for improving our cardiovascular output and our aerobic fitness. Light training, which is going to be anything under 60%, so like 45 to 60% of our max heart rate, this is going to be really, really beneficial recovery training. So when we are doing intense training and our heart gets a little bit tired, which is common, some indicators that your heart's a little bit tired from a session are that your resting heart rate's higher than normal. Sometimes this happens for me often after like a big race or something. The next day my resting heart rate will be a little bit higher than it normally is, and then over the next couple of days it'll kind of go back down to where it normally is. On days when our heart is tired, it's good to do recovery work. And so even sometimes just like a cardio session or a strength session during the week can make our heart a little bit tired if we go super hard. And it's good to do a little bit of a recovery day after that. And that doesn't mean that we need to take the day off, but we can do like our cardio effort or our strength effort for the next day. We can, focus on keeping it in that lower zone because that's a good recovery zone and that's going to be really good for our heart on that day. I hope that made sense. I know I was kind of all over with that, but I tried to cram a lot of thoughts on heart rate into a short amount of time. So let me know if you have any questions. I hope you guys have questions on this because it's a great thing to talk about and to understand about your body. I'd love for you guys to monitor your heart rate during maybe a few training sessions in the next week or two, and let me know some things that you noticed when you were monitoring it. I'd love to hear some things that you've noticed. Okay. Hope you have an awesome rest of your day, Coach K.